thing is finding rate from a graph. And we'll work with this more in section 2, but I'm going to go ahead and give you just the starting point for working with rate from a graph. So our first step is we're going to choose a point on the graph that crosses at an intersecting point. So if you look at this graph that I have up here, and I'll enlarge this just a little bit, probably not a whole lot because my words are attached to it. Okay, so if I enlarge this and you look at the graph, you'll notice that I actually have points already marked on here. And it doesn't matter which of these points I pick, which of those red points I pick. The key thing to note is that it has to cross at an intersecting point of our grid. So I couldn't pick a point like here because, first of all, that's not very well on the line. But second of all, I couldn't tell you if that was a half or if that was 3/4 or 5/8. So you have to pick a point that falls on a corner of your grid. So if I go ahead and pick this one, I'm now going to go through and identify the units that are associated with that point. So I'm going to draw some lines just to make it easier for me. So if I were to connect this point down to my x-axis, this 2 is representing my seconds. Okay, so I've got 2 seconds, and that was my x. And then this, if I follow the line across, is a 3, and that was representing my kilometers. So my y, because notice that my y is right there, equals 3 kilometers. And I'm just going to use km for kilometers. Now, if I want the unit rate, I want to know, in our previous slide, we guys had to do our y's as our first one. So our y is 3 per 2 seconds. Now, if I want to change that, I would do 3 divided by 2, which is going to give me 1.5 kilometers per second. Per second. Okay, so that's working with that graph. And we'll do just a little bit of this now, and you'll understand a little bit more as we start working slope in section 2. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do a few of these for right now. And I want you to take note, had I picked this one up here, well, then it was, whoops, and then I went off the wrong line. Then it was going here. So my 4 was my time. So before that was my x's are on the bottom, so 4 seconds. And this 6 was my kilometers, so 6 kilometers. This reduces down to still 3/2, or if I did 6 divided by 4 on my calculator, it's still going to give me 1.5 kilometers per second. So it doesn't matter which of the points I pick. Okay, they still have the same unit rate. All right, so let's look at this one. The cost of gelato, and so for our cost, we have our dollars going up on the Y scale and our scoops on our X scale. So I'm going to pick 2 points. So here I don't have the points picked. So what is the cost per scoop? So if I go through, well, if I could pick 1 scoop, I would, but I can't. See how it's not on a corner? So I'm going to follow this line up until it crosses a corner. And I see here's the first point that it crosses at the corner of the grid. Okay, so when I look at this, I'm going to go ahead and do my 2 numbers. So let's do our Y first, because remember, that's always our top number. So our Y is our 3. And that was our dollars per, this is a 2, and that's our scoops. So now if I want to know cost per scoop, now I can divide it out. 3 divided by 2 would give me 1.5, which is $1.50 per scoop. Okay, the next question says, what would the cost be for 12 scoops? So if I look at my grid, well, if I look across here, it only goes out to 10. And you can see my line isn't even crossing at 10. It would have to come clear up here for me to be able to see where it crosses. So now what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to use my information from number 1 to be able to go through and decide that. Well, if it's $1.50 for 1 scoop and I want 12 of those, we're going to do $1.50 times 12. Because I want to buy 12 of those scoops. So $1.50 times 12 gives me $18. So it would cost me $18 to buy 12 scoops of ice cream. It's a lot of ice cream. It might give you a bellyache. I'm hoping that's a birthday party. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pull another one out and we'll work through this one. Okay, so here we have the graph shows the distance that sound travels through air. Find the speed of sound in kilometers per second. Okay, so on this graph, I actually do have numbers identified, and I am working with some decimal numbers, which doesn't matter. So I'm just going to pick one of them that I see. We'll go ahead and do this one. Okay, so when I look at that, the numbers that are indicated on there, they're giving me the coordinates. So I know that, yes, if I followed this down, it looks like it's approximately 6. And if I follow this across, it's a little above 2. But here's the thing. There's a reason that they gave us the coordinates here. Okay, we don't have to follow the graph. They're telling us what the numbers are here. So I just have to know which one's which. Well, my 6 is my X, and my 2.1 is my Y. And I can remember that by doing my XYZ. But I could also reference the graph and look and see, oh, my 6, that's pretty close to 6 is my seconds. Okay, this a little above 2 is going to be my kilometers. So when we do this, remember we always do our Y's first. So we're going to do this kilometers first, which was our 2.1 over our 6 seconds. Okay, so now if we go through and we do our unit rate, just like we have on the previous slides, we're going to divide it out. So 2.1 divided by 6 seconds gives me 0.35, and that would be kilometers per second. Or you could put 0.35 km over 1 second. So that's it from finding rate from a graph. And I will say probably the rate from a graph is the most difficult just because kids struggle with identifying those points. So that's something that we'll just keep working on and just keep plugging away at those. Good luck with this lesson, guys.